We talked to quarterbacks today at Ohio State on the eve of preseason camp, and I had one question. I only got to ask one question of anybody, but the one question I had for both quarterbacks it was kind of a simple one. What was the most important football thing that you accomplished this summer? Because we haven't talked to these guys really since the spring game, kind of intermittent here or there. Haven't talked to them since the spring game. What's the most important thing you got done? Stephen, they both had essentially the same answer, a different version of the same answer. Do you think it was an important answer? You can talk a little bit about what it was and what the ramifications might be.
Yeah, they both talked about leadership. The mental side of things is maybe where they've grown the most. And I thought it was interesting because Kyle McCord, going back to the spring till now, has talked a lot of the same, really going back to last fall camp. He has brought up multiple times the fact that he's grown as a leader, but also this was CJ's team. And he didn't want to step on CJ's toes, which that's kind of the deal here. It's whoever the starting quarterback is, it's their team, and everybody needs to fall in line behind him. So as Kyle's developing these leadership skills, he can't show them, at least not to the full extent he wants to show them. While Devin Brown even admitted, I just got here. I've never thrown a pass. I've never played in the game. Who am I to say something over CJ Stroud? CJ left a shadow here. He clearly had an impact on this program, one from obviously what we saw on Saturdays, but also what was happening Sunday through Friday. That is now gone, and it's up for grabs. And it feels like both of these quarterbacks are kind of battling that aspect of it as much as they are trying to start on Saturday, trying to make this their team. And I mentioned this in the last video, Ryan Day, talking about the fact that the team has to believe in the quarterback. That's how you do it. You're vocal in the weight room. You're kind of showing yourself off in the weight room. It's stuff other than can you throw a 40-yard touchdown pass, because most of the quarterbacks here can do that type of stuff. So I thought on a day where we didn't really learn a lot, because we're not going to, the thing is getting ready to kick off on Thursday, the leadership part being maybe more emphasized than who's playing better football, I thought really stood out to me.
Yeah, Stroud, I don't think left a shadow, but he definitely cast a shadow while he was here. And it sounds like during the summer, whether it was the competitive drills that they were doing, whether it was Mickey Marotti's weight stuff, there were a lot of opportunities for both McCord and Brown to sort of assert themselves now out in the open a little bit. I mean, it's not a knock against them because, as you're saying, like when Stroud's here and he's a second-year starter and he's a returning Heisman Trophy finalist and et cetera, on down the list, and he's breaking records, like that's the guy who should take up a lot of oxygen. That's the guy who should be leading your room. And now these other intangibles were sort of up for grabs. I mean, it's time for McCord and Brown, as much as they're doing things here on the field, to show those things too, because I asked Ryan Day, you talked a lot about whoever can just lead drives, that's who's going to win this competition. I think it's a little bit more nuanced than that, because he mentions Dwayne Haskins at the end of the Maryland game. He mentions Justin Fields getting cracked in half against Clemson and coming back in and winning that game, and what C.J. Stroud almost was able to do at the end of that Georgia game. That's a more specialized skill set, and the things that you are trying to observe and find in a guy, it's not just what you see completing. Do they run the right play on a football field? Do they make the right read? There's something else that you're trying to get down to. There's an essence of a guy that you're trying to find, and he's had a couple years now to observe both of these guys, less for Brown obviously, but I think those are going to be important things in the final decision that he makes.
I think it's something you can't see until you see it, right? We didn't know C.J. Stroud could do that until he did it. We didn't know Dwayne Haskins could do that until he did it. Same with, maybe Justin Fields a little bit more because he's more of an athletic quarterback than those two. But it's a gut feeling thing to this quarterback competition. It's always going to be that way. And whether you're talking about leadership or being able to do things when you absolutely have to do them, those are the things you're not going to find out. And you've kind of got to envision what it will look like when you're trying to simulate it for the next 30 days through fall camp.
He talks a lot about projections when it comes to football things. I think you almost have to just project that thing I was just talking about. Who's going to do well with the ball in their hands at the end of a game? You try to simulate it, but you have to project it. I don't think you can project leadership. I think either you've seen a guy do it or you haven't. And it sounds like both of these guys are doing that, so it may be splitting hairs. It may not be the ultimate decision, but it's one of the factors that they have to consider. Get the text, 614-350-3315. You get them now. It's a 2-week free trial before the $3.99 a month kicks in, which ain't a lot, but it's a 2-week free trial, and that'll take you through the first 2 weeks of preseason camp. You can try us out and listen to Buckeye Talk wherever you can find podcasts.